Hello everybody and welcome back to What the Tech on Connect 2 Tech, because we're very creative at naming things. And
Yes.
this is the first time, this is a very long time since we've done one of these, but we decided that seeing as everyone is in lockdown, as are we, this would be a good time to bring this back slightly. So,
Yeah, why not? We've got some tech news that's happened recently, and we're all bored out of our skulls and trying not to do work. So let's do this.
yay! The Minecraft series does have more than one part. I just haven't edited more than one part, so look forward to that. And today we're going to talk about
consoles, primarily.
Consoles and anti-consoles, as they are called.
Oh, okay. If they hit each other, do they annihilate and then no one gets to play video games?
Basically.
Oh dear.
I mean, we all know that the new consoles are running off some form of concentrated dark matter, so...
Really? Oh Christ, I thought it was Zen 2, but never mind.
So, we're gonna look at the newly announced PlayStation. Well, not newly announced, but they've finally released some information that's actually useful about it. The PS5, and same goes for the Xbox Series X, which is really annoying me with its name, because what are they going to call the next one? The Xbox Series V, or the Xbox Series... Like, just... At least the PlayStation know how to sequentially name things.
PS5. Oh, what a brilliant name. How easy.
Was there an Xbox between Xbox and Xbox 360?
No.
So it went
It was Xbox 360,
even though it wasn't
Xbox
around.
One, and then Xbox Series X.
Well, the Xbox One X, which is what's going to confuse everyone, then the Xbox Series X. And the Xbox One S, there was one of those as well, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah.
It would have probably been better if they've just called it Scorpio, because wasn't that its code name?
Yeah, Scorpio would have been a cool name.
Xbox Scorpio would have made more sense than X, because they've already got
And then they could
have
had this one be Xbox Scorpio 2.
And then just, this makes sense.
Then just use that.
Well, I mean, everyone expected the Xbox One X to be called the Xbox 2, and then everyone was like, well, where are you going to go from here? Because letters don't work as sequential naming patterns.
Yeah,
so they should have called Xbox.
What are they going to call the next one? Xbox Series Y, Xbox Series Z, exactly. And then they've run out of letters already. They started too late in the alphabet.
They started too late in the alphabet, yeah, exactly. So, apart from the fact that we clearly know which naming system we prefer, we should probably look at something other than that to decide.
Well, I've got the text specs up here for both, and
I'll try and put these up on the screen.
Essentially, I'm going to be speaking as a PlayStation gamer, because that's what I've been since the year 4, and so...
The year 4?
Sure. My PS2 is literally here.
That's 4 AD, for anyone wondering.
Yeah. This is my PS2 controller.
Makes lovely clicking noises.
Buttons. So, it's literally right next to me, my son. There's a 360 here too, but we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. That's just a monitor sound, isn't it?
Yeah. Should we do PlayStation first, or should we do Xbox first?
I mean, given that you just stated that you're on a PlayStation's side, I think we should start with Xbox to try and give them a chance.
Okay. Give them some chance. Let them be first. Let PlayStation fight against them next.
I mean, if we go through each spec and compare them, it might be easier to keep track. You know, in terms of directly, comparing them. So, we've got the 10 specs. Let's do a rundown. Go.
Series X is on the right. Series PlayStation 5 is on the left. So, we have 8 Zen 2 cores at 3.8 gigahertz on the Xbox Series X, with 3.6 gigahertz with simultaneous multi-threading, so hyper-threading enabled. So, yeah, basically, the Xbox Series X is running an R7 3700X.
3700X. Interesting.
Because it has a base clock of 3.6, and this has a base clock of 3.6. 8 cores with 16 threads with that simultaneous multi-threading enabled.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not going to boost as high though, because the 3700X boosts to 4.4 gigahertz, so it won't boost as high.
And also, it probably won't have as good cooling solution, although we don't know that yet, but it's pretty likely.
We don't know anything about cooling yet.
Yeah.
So for the PlayStation, it's the same AMD Zen 2 based CPU with 8 cores, at 3.5 gigahertz. So it has a slightly lower base clock.
Right.
But simultaneous multi-threading is always enabled.
Wait, is it not? Is it not always enabled on the Xbox?
No, because it's only enabled at 3.6 on the Xbox. So it could disable itself to get higher boosts. So that's interesting because if there's a fewer core thing. But on consoles, things tend to be multi-threaded anyway. Right. Because they don't have to run it through Windows Shell or Mac OS or whatever OS. They just run it straight on the metal.
They know you're not going to be running Chrome as well.
Yeah, you don't know you're going to be running 6 Chrome tabs and whatever the hell, Spotify and Netflix.
And variable, it says variable frequency, but it doesn't tell us what the boost is.
Well, no, that's suggesting there could be a higher boost. So we don't know how high it can go. I think that'll depend on the cooling.
Yeah.
So looking at the PlayStation 5's design, once that comes out, we'll be able to make a better assumption of how well it will perform.
How well it will turbo, yeah. Interesting.
Because if it can turbo nice and high, 4 gigahertz, 4.2, it'll beat the Xbox Series X.
Yep.
The CPU anyway. So that's interesting. It's got a nice CPU on both sides. Very nice CPU, in fact. So do we do a comparison to your computer and my computer from that then?
Yeah. So
CPUs?
We're doing the comparisons to consoles versus PC Master Race, basically. We're comparing what you would be able to get if you were buying a gaming PC instead. We don't know the prices of these yet, which will be interesting once that's revealed.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's around the 300 mark, honestly, because I can't really afford much more than about the 300 mark, and I really want to buy a PS5 when it comes out. So,
do you know what the PS4 was on release? I'm going to take us down a tangent, which we're already tangenting. It's probably about 250.
It released at £350.
Ah, right, okay.
PlayStation 4 with a DualShock controller. That was in 2013.
Wow. That's how long it's been since a whole new iteration.
Boy's been around a long time.
Yeah. So
well for its age.
So it might be a similar price to that.
Hopefully. I'm hoping it will be, because I think I can wrangle that in some which way.
Yeah.
But anyway, compared to computers, you've just built a Zen-based computer.
It's a Zen-based. Everything is Zen-based. Yes, indeed. This is the specs. Look at the specs that I have spec'd on the screen with the specs.
Yes, I do. You've got a 2700X?
Yes.
Yes. So that's not Zen 2, that's Zen Plus, which was a refresh of the original Zen architecture.
Yes, but
your architecture is a little behind, but
it does clock higher.
What's your turbo and what's your base?
I think
I always forget.
I'm currently sat at 4 dead on, which is just sat there, but I think it's 3.8 to 4.2 maybe.
Okay.
I can't remember.
So you basically, because you've got 8 cores and 16 threads like these two do.
Yes, it's just slightly
your cores
older.
Are lower IPC but higher clock, so it probably levels about out if you're generous with both.
Yeah.
So we should say that your CPU is around the same performance.
It's roughly the same performance, yeah, which is interesting.
So they have the full fat R7 3700X, basically.
Right, yeah,
except the frequencies are slightly cut down.
Because it's a console. It's very close between all three at this stage.
Mm.
And then if you already had a gaming PC from a few years ago, then you have Richard's answer.
Yes, I have a FX 8350 build from 2013-ish, and it was pretty high-end back then, and is decidedly less so now. So I've got 8 cores. Well, I've got 4 real cores, but they have parts of other cores in them, so they did sort of count as 8 cores for a while, but they aren't really 8 cores. They're more like 4 cores with hyper-threading.
It says here...
That's confusing.
8 cores in 4 physical modules is how it describes it.
Yes, so 8 cores with quotation marks around it.
Yes.
At 4 gigahertz, but
right.
I've done some serious overclocking to 4.6.
I remember when it hit 5 and you nearly destroyed the world.
Oh god, yes. My VRM was screaming. It was so bad. I was pushing 1.5 volt through the CPU. It was rough.
Yeah.
It was properly rough. That was a bad overclock. I don't even have proper VRM cooling on this motherboard. Anyway. So my CPU is decidedly out of date when it comes to instructions per clock. So even at these significantly higher clock speeds, I'm years behind. Because what was the comparison? What's your Cinebench score? Because I think mine was around 700.
That's 1,788.
1,788. You get about 1,000 more points than I do.
So
these consoles would be expected to be about the same.
Yeah.
So it's a significantly powerful CPU.
Yes.
To put some perspective on that number, my CPU keeps up with my RX 480 well enough that with more modern games, there's more CPU power required because we've had this sudden leap in performance in the last 2 or 3 years when Ryzen came out and freaking stomped Intel to the point where they started throwing more cores onto the CPUs and they got really hot and it became a problem. And then Ryzen 2 came out, Zen 2 came out and just freaking stomped fully. So it's a case of games can now utilize more CPU because there's more CPU usually available because we're getting better CPUs.
Which is why it's no wonder that they've gone with this kind of solution.
Yeah. Going with something old-fashioned like Bulldozer or Pile Driver or whatever architecture my CPU is just not going to be functional. It's like the old chips used Jaguar architecture, which was based on a dead-end desktop chip that AMD made. They made 2 or 3 of the Athlon chips, and they were basically extremely low-power chips, supposed to run on 2 or 3 watts maximum. I picked up some of that stuff because I thought it would be quite interesting to have a PC with similar performance to the console's CPU. Yeah. And it essentially was hopeless.
Oh.
because
obviously
in the console, there's none of this overhead, there's no OS overhead, there's none of this other stuff. The PS4 can does very well with what it's got.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It's 7 years old this year?
Yep.
That's
the original.
That's insane. And it wasn't exactly an extreme PC powerhouse when it was built. These are built to be high-end gaming computers, basically.
That's what it
from the get-go.
Yeah.
So, for graphics, the Xbox Series X has I'm not going to say the teraflops number because teraflops are meaningless. They are completely meaningless.
But they do sound terrifying.
They're it's floating point performance. But floating point performance doesn't mean anything because it's single precision. And if you're going to do anything professionally, you need multi-point precision. Or in the real world, you won't be doing floating point. You'll be doing mathematical-based calculation, in which case this number is irrelevant. When you're rendering a scene, floating point performance doesn't really matter, and that's what these graphics chips are going to be doing. Yeah. So it's kind of irrelevant, that number. So we'll ignore that, and we'll move straight to the 52 CUs, which means, in a more reasonable computer-oriented way, I'm just crashing about like a maniac, 52 CUs, and each CU on AMD is 64 cores inside their graphics chips. So 52 times 64 will give you 3,328 cores.
Right. Which is
that GPU will have 3,328 cores at 1.8 gigahertz. So 1,800 megahertz, which is about what 10 series and 20 series NVIDIA graphics cards can run out clockwise.
Yeah.
And that's custom RDNA 2 architecture. So basically, it's a 5700 XT on roids.
Basically.
In fact, that's closer to 2 5700 XTs than it isn't.
Right.
So that's very exciting.
This is serious graphic
that's some
power
serious beef there.
For a console, especially.
Yeah.
Because
this is whomping level stuff.
I mean, this is going to be 4K. It says potential 8K resolutions.
Well, 4K 60 Hz should be very easy to run on this console. Yeah. It should be possible, more than possible.
Which, if it comes out at the £350 price mark, is awesome.
Oh, that means 4K gaming for most people. It's the issue of who has 4K screens.
No one.
Because I don't own any 4K screens.
Me neither.
So let's compare the Xbox Series X with its Sorry, hold on. The number is very hard to remember. 3,328 cores against the PlayStation 4 with its 36 CUs, times that by 64. So that's the same number of cores as my RX 480, 2,304.
Oh, okay.
So there was about 1,000 core deficit
right
in the graphics department.
But
however,
they're running at a higher clock.
The graphics cores on the PS5 will be running at 2.23 gigahertz,
which is insane.
Which is ridiculous. That's insane for a graphics card. Like, we haven't seen numbers like that beyond extreme overclocking, which is insane. And I'm quite excited to see the microarchitecture that can support that speed.
Yeah.
It's a case of when you have fewer CUs, you can force them to run higher clocks, because you've seen that for ages. It's always been around that, especially with the graphics card departments. The lower end cards run higher clocks than the higher end cards. Just look at the 700 series.
Yeah.
760s could run 1050 megahertz, whereas the 780s and stuff were in the 900 megahertz band.
Yeah.
That's more the case here.
But it's interesting as well that they've not gone down exactly the same route. Like, it's good for us comparing them at least, because otherwise we'd just be saying, yes, they're exactly... Because there's not much different on this list, but that is one of the slightly different things that they've chosen to do in a way.
They're both the same architecture. So this is interesting, because they seem like different SKUs of the same architecture family.
Yeah.
It's like those 36 CUs in RDNA 2 is basically a 5700 XT, as far as I know. Let me have a quick Google. Wow, okay. That's fewer compute units than a 5700 XT.
All right, okay.
So that is a 5600 XT.
What, in the Xbox?
In the PlayStation.
Oh, in the PlayStation. Oh, right,
PlayStation, okay. With the fewer cores, the 36 CUs, is the spitting image. Actually, no, it's not. It's an RX 5600 XT. However, the RX 5700 XT only has a boost clock of 1560 megahertz.
Right, so it's an overclocked.
It's an extremely overclocked, like unreasonably overclocked.
That's crazy.
5600 XT. Like, this is a lot more powerful. Because this chip will be significantly more powerful than a 5700 XT, which is good, because a 5700 XT is more powerful than an RX 480, and an RX 480 is what I've got, and I know how an RX 480 performs. So let's do the comparison with maybe our RX 480, and then we'll move on to your new shiny, well, not new, used shiny
GTX 980.
So the RX 480 hasn't aged badly. It's just that things have changed quickly in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
You know, we got 36 compute units like these two other forms of graphics card. So let's focus specifically on the PS5 and ignore the RX 5600 XT, because it's not going to be anything like that, really. So essentially, I have the same number of CUs and the same number of cores, but a very different architecture. I'm running Polaris architecture, which is a good few years old now.
Yeah.
Polaris. So we've had some significant movement since then, because the best core clock I've managed to settle on is about 1380 megahertz. Got it over 1400 once, but then it was very cross with me.
And then it exploded.
So I decided to pull it back. It didn't explode, it just got angry.
You may remember from the Tech Experiments video that we water-cooled the RX 480.
To give us more performance, and it did work well, and it stayed cool and everything like that. But again, like the rest of my computer, it's starting to feel the age, it's starting to feel time. You know, it's not an old card, but there are old cards that can, you know, cost significantly less and beat the hell out of it, which is kind of frustrating, really. Because recently I had a R9 290 hanging around that I picked up for very cheap. It was 60, 70 pounds or something. And that was, you know,
knocking on its door
with my RX 480. And I was like, okay,
You were like, stop it.
Maybe it might be worth my while to move backward in time but forward in performance, to a case of R9 390X or an R9 Fury or something like that, but
we will see.
Again, I decided
but
not to.
if you're gonna have a console with that in it anyway, then that's where money better spent in a way. So
Certainly.
That is the graphics comparison. Wait, are we going to talk about the 980 or not?
Yes.
Okay, so I've got a GTX 980 that I'm borrowing from a very kind friend Will, because he had two identical cards, and one was sat in his wardrobe because his power supply couldn't run both of them. So it's a Founders Edition GTX 980, and that means things.
Basically, the card is about equivalent to a R9 390. Well, the thing is that because it's an NVIDIA card rather than an AMD card, it's very different. It's got a different design idea behind it. It's a few years old also. It's built to be different. The architecture is different. But performance can be measured anyway.
Yeah.
In the case of the GTX 980, it beats quite a few new cards. It's like a 5500 XT is probably less powerful than a 980, I would say.
Okay. So, the 980 sits somewhere just below the graphics card in both systems.
Yes, basically. So, as much as your CPU is on par or more powerful than your new console CPUs, your GPU is lacking on both counts.
Yes.
The thing that's bothering me a little, honestly, as a PlayStation player, is that the Xbox Series X graphics solution is more powerful.
Yeah.
More cores is more cores, no matter what they are. They're more cores. Which means if the PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 5, and the Xbox Series X are both the same price, what does that mean for the games? Is it going to be a case of the Series X has the nicer experience, or is it going to be a case of the PlayStation 5 is just they both look about the same, it's just that the frame rate's slightly worse, or the frame rate's more wobbly, or there's concern there. Because I'm going to be playing The Last of Us Part 2 on this thing.
Yeah.
And VR games on this thing. As much as it's significantly more powerful than my PS4 for the VR, which will be fantastic because it means stuff like hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades, and Boneworks, and maybe, if Valve are kind, Half-Life Alyx may be able to come to PS5, which would be fantastic for me, because as much as my headset has has very similar, usability to Vive and all the other forms of headset, there is a case that because I'm on the PlayStation platform, I can't enjoy PC titles.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to see
that now that it's going to be as powerful as a PC, what they do with it. Yeah, it's interesting.
What they plan to do with that, because that's the thing that keeps bringing me back to PlayStation. Yeah. As much as I'm in the environment, I already have consoles, I already have games, I already have other stuff, and the fact that they've definitely said now that the PlayStation 5 will have backward compatibility with PS4, that's fantastic.
Yes.
I already own a PS4? What does that mean? Because backward compatibility can mean a lot of things. It can mean backward compatibility in the case of the old PS3s way back at the beginning of the PlayStation 3 era, which just had a PS2 inside them.
Yeah.
There's no graphical bump from that. It was a PlayStation 3 with a PS2 inside it playing a PS2 game. Will this be a case of my PS4 games will look prettier, or will have higher resolution textures, or will run at a faster frame rate, or what will happen when I put them into my PS5?
Yeah.
Because if I can get The Last of Us, the original Last of Us, that's now gone through 3 consoles, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5 now.
Yeah.
Will they re-release that as a super-duper remaster?
Yeah.
Because the remaster on the PlayStation 4 isn't looking as crispy as it did when it came out.
No.
As much as the PlayStation 3 version of The Last of Us still looks fantastic, because you're like, how the hell is this running on this machine?
Yeah.
Like, how is this functioning? It's a game running at 720p, fair enough. It's a PS3. At 30, 60, depends what the scene is. And it's a case of it was very beautiful, and I was amazed by it when it came out.
Yeah.
The same as I was amazed with Horizon Zero Dawn when that came out on the PS4. Will it be a case of when I'm on PlayStation 5, I'll be able to play Horizon Zero Dawn with some kicked up a notch graphics?
Hopefully.
Because I would jump at that.
Yeah.
Because I'm desperately waiting for them to release a Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or something like that. Because I want to know what happens. I want more story in that universe.
Yeah.
That universe is so interesting. I want more story.
Yeah.
But that's the issues I'm having, is that as much as I don't want to buy an Xbox, it has the better graphics performance. And that is worrying me.
But it might not have the better exclusives, as it did in this generation.
What's on Xbox that I care about?
Yeah.
Forza, I can play that on my PC. Halo, I can play that on my PC too now.
Yeah. Sea of Thieves we're going to get on PC.
PC of Thieves is coming to Steam.
Yeah. PC of Thieves.
PC of Thieves.
Yes.
Everyone's just being very polite and not being transphobic or anything.
Basically. Right. Well, yes, so that is a worrying factor, especially for an interested consumer.
Another question I have is, basically, I have had both consoles this generation. I had a PlayStation 4 for the longest, but I did have an Xbox One S for a short while. I think I remember talking to you about that prior.
Yes.
To the invention of this channel or anything like that.
Yeah, I remember seeing it.
And I hated that piece of shit.
Which would suggest that you shouldn't buy an Xbox Series X.
But the reason I hated it wasn't the console, wasn't the controller, wasn't any of the games, it wasn't the way it played the games, it was the menus. The way the console worked when you weren't in game, because you turn that thing on, guess what the first thing you see is? Oh yes, a giant banner advert for poker. Okay, the next thing is
boring.
System memory.
Yeah.
And essentially, they both have exactly the same format. It's 16 gigabytes of GDDR6, which is the RAM replacing GDDR5 in graphics cards. So it's very high performance, fast RAM. It's got high memory bus on both systems.
Yeah.
It's essentially identical. 16 gigs is brilliant because,
it's a big step
let's be
up
honest,
in terms
8
of the
gigs is a
console line.
bit small these days.
Yeah. Especially, it's a big step up for the console line.
Oh, absolutely. It's like we went from, for the PlayStation 3, we had 500 megabytes of RAM to suddenly 8 gig in the PS4, and then whammo, we get 16 in the PlayStation 5. The same with the Xbox. The 360 had 500 megabytes of RAM, sort of.
Wow.
It was split differently. Then the Xbox Ones all had 8 gigs of GDDR5. So this is GDDR6, it's higher.
Faster and twice as much. Yeah.
There's more capacity for larger resolution textures if they're really, really moving, which it seems like the Xbox Series X is aimed at 120 Hz or 60 Hz 4K gaming. If you want 4K, you need big textures.
Yeah.
Big textures means lots of VRAM.
Lots of VRAM, yeah.
All these systems have is VRAM, because it's VRAM that is shared with the CPU.
Yeah.
It's sort of the opposite of how an integrated GPU works on the PC platform. Because on PC, your iGPU shares RAM resources with your CPU, with their CPU primarily. So it's DDR3 or DDR4.
Yeah.
That is shared, which is slower memory than the G variants. Because the graphics RAM has to be quick access because they need textures. They need textures putting into the RAM, throwing up on screen. You need it quick access. So this is going to be very helpful for both consoles moving forward. We should see a significant easing of save and load times and things like that.
Which will also
we'll talk about that more in the next step.
I was going to say, this is going to be improved significantly with the storage.
Finally,
it's such a big step.
6,000 years after the invention of these SSD, we're finally moving to NVMe storage on both platforms, essentially.
I think that's going to be a huge leap.
It's going to be a massive leap. It means that we don't have to basically install the game 3 times onto the hard drive. That's why game files got so huge.
Yeah.
Is that the consoles, because of the spinning platter, we're trying to put textures close to each other that would be called close to each other, so it meant that read and write speeds would be faster. So they were trying to put on the hard disk,
basically just cheating.
For Spider-Man, PlayStation 4 Spider-Man, let's say that the Spider-Man suit moving in a particular way, the physics or the calculation that does that is tied to a similar part as the noise of web swinging, because it was regular that when Spider-Man was moving, you needed to do the physics of his movement and stuff like that. They would put that code close together, but it was also necessary in other parts of the platter.
Yeah.
So they were duplicating some data just to make the read speeds faster.
Just cheating, basically.
Basically cheating at trying to make hard drives relevant in 2020, which they aren't.
Yeah.
Hard drives are relevant for games you don't care about.
And for large data storage.
And long-term large storage of
videos and just
video, audio, whatever you need. So we're moving to 825 gigabyte SSD in the PlayStation, which is a very weird capacity, but we'll talk about that more in a moment.
Yeah.
And a custom NVMe jobby in the Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
So it's a case of the Xbox Series X is basically just going, yo, PC market, can we have an NVMe SSD? And they're going, okay.
Yeah.
And you'll probably get it from Samsung or whoever.
Yeah.
Straight from the manufacturer. It's a terabyte SSD. They are everywhere.
Yeah.
You can buy them for PC now. So it's not too much of a trouble. NVMe does mean PCIe speed storage, which would be very nice and very welcome.
Well, it's like
dad's old. Sorry.
It's like jumping 2 steps essentially for the consoles, because you're jumping from a SATA hard drive to an NVMe SSD. It's like massive leap.
You know, because normally you would, like we both have in our computers, we have SATA SSDs.
Yeah.
And they are not snappy, but this MacBook Air has an NVMe-based storage solution.
Yeah.
And I've got to say that it boots faster, it loads faster, it does everything faster.
Yeah.
Even though it's a MacBook Air.
Well, I've got the
mobile CPU, but it snaps.
Yeah. I've got the NVMe boot drive now as well.
Oh right, have you?
Remember the 500 gig one? I thought if I'm only having one, I may as well have 500 gig. Yeah. It gets more boring from now on with the specs, because they both have 4K Blu-ray drives, which is good, but not hugely exciting, because that's kind of just something that...
Well, I wanted to just quickly discuss that random weird size on the PlayStation 5.
Oh, yeah,
because there is a reason to that.
Yeah.
The reasoning is that they are building their own SSD from the ground up. So Xbox are basically just going to... It's probably going to be Samsung, because that's where they get their RAM chips from. Yeah. They're probably just going to go to a manufacturer like Samsung and go, give us NVMe SSDs. And they will go, sure, and send over a pallet, and that's what they'll use. This is a more custom solution. So it's a case of they're building their own flash controller, and they're trying to have a multi-channel interface. That means that more of the RAM chips are accessible at one time. So, well, more of the NAND chips, are accessible at one time, meaning that your throughput through that storage device will be significantly faster.
Which is insanely fast already.
I don't know how much faster it will be than standard NVMe.
We won't really know.
Because standard NVMe is kind of freaking fast anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't noticed.
But it's
I don't know of anything that could be faster. So
it's like you say, if they manage to design it so that more data can be accessed simultaneously that fast, then that might be where we see the benefit. You know, it's not necessarily
might be the PlayStation 5's.
You know, it's the
saving grace.
Yeah, exactly.
Ace in the hole, like you were saying.
Yeah. I
think that's the thing, because the textures are going to be so much bigger this generation. Because just look at any of the footage of The Last of Us Part 2. There is so much foliage, there's so many trees, there's so much grass, everything moves, it has its own physics, it moves in the wind, it moves when your character moves through it. It's all
very exciting.
Dynamic.
Yeah.
And unbelievably beautiful, and that's just my 2 cents worth. But that stuff took time to load. Horizon Zero Dawn takes a good few minutes to load.
Yeah.
When I play it. And that has some of that stuff, but toned down because it's a PlayStation 4 and it can't deal with a world filled with custom...
I love how we're just ignoring the PS4 Pro because of how annoyingly obnoxious it was.
It's pointless, because I can play all my games as I play them.
Yeah.
And my PS4 cost £180, literally 5 years ago at the start of university. I don't know how I got that deal. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, I got a really sweet deal on a PS4, and I didn't see the point of a PlayStation Pro.
Well, no, I don't think most people.
The same way, I don't really see the point of an Xbox One Series X or Xbox One X. Sorry.
It's anyone who had a 4K TV. Those 5 people who thought, I'm not using this for anything, therefore I need to buy this so that I can justify having a 4K. I think that's all it was for.
It's buying a thing to have a thing to use with your thing that you bought.
Yeah, exactly. But whereas this is proper implementation of the next, this is kind of, the world is not necessarily ready, but it's more ready than it was.
Well, that's the thing. We actually can see, I must admit, the graphics card desktop side has slowed down.
Yeah.
Because the 2080 Ti is not really that much more powerful than the 1080 Ti.
Yeah.
But both are very capable of running games at 4K resolutions effortlessly playable.
Yeah.
It's easy. That's where we've gotten to. It has slowed down because in that sector there isn't much competition. Here, there's more competition because more people are going to buy these two consoles separately than will ever buy a gaming computer.
Yeah.
Because that's the way this works.
The minority. Yeah. So the rest of it is relatively
essentially
meaningless.
Identical between the two.
The rest of it is
both
just
looking at ray tracing. They're both looking at potentially 8K resolutions eventually. They're both looking at
4K Blu-ray drives. It's
4K Blu-rays.
That external storage USB-H hard drive for PS4 games is interesting because that is it's just, I mean, it's just nice of them to think of something like that because they don't often do that.
I think that's the thing.
It's nice.
It means that if you decide, you could pull the hard drive from your
literally just pull PS4, it out of your PS4, buy an enclosure for it, yeah.
Get a USB enclosure. They might even provide one.
Yeah.
There might be a case that there is a
literally
Sony one
just turn your PS5 into a PS5/4.
You just dump your PS4 games onto your PS5. I've got a 2 terabyte drive in my PS4.
Well, there you go.
I custom upgraded.
Yeah.
So I will just swap that over. I've even got the old 500 gig drive knocking around somewhere.
Yeah.
That I could drop back into the PS4 and it just becomes the PS4 again. I'm not going to sell it or anything because I love my PS4.
Yeah.
It has been as good to me as my PlayStation 2 has been. And I think the even number PlayStation consoles are just brilliant.
Which is worrying for the PS5.
Are just brilliant.
Maybe the PS5 will break the pattern. Hopefully.
Hopefully. The thing that they've got to ensure with these consoles is usability. Yeah. It's like I was saying earlier, with that Xbox One I had, I don't want to turn my console on and have an advert for something I don't care about.
I used to hate that, how the Kindles did that. Do you remember the Kindle? Like, I used to hate that. I worked out a way of stopping it because it just annoyed me so much.
It's furious. I don't turn my PC on and get an advert for something I don't want. I don't turn my Mac on and get an advert
until you go on Facebook or Chrome.
You go on anything else. But that's the thing.
Do you know what I've just realised that they've not mentioned? Networking.
Well, I think it's a case that everyone's expecting Wi-Fi 6 these days. So
yeah, I suppose.
It's kind of irrelevant.
I hope they, because it'd be interesting if one of them did better than the other, because I know that some people had issues with PS4 download speeds.
The original crop of PlayStation 4s with the shiny hard drive cover.
Yes.
Because there was 2 formats of the original PS4 before they did Slim. There was a shiny and then there was the matte. I had a matte one from the beginning, so I've never seen any of this trouble. Yeah. I get nice download speeds up and down because my Wi-Fi chip is better. But they had a rough Wi-Fi chip in those first PlayStation 4s. And it only did, I think, 2.5 gigahertz, not 5 gig Wi-Fi. So that meant it was slower. So there is an issue there that maybe...
Well, it's just interesting that they've not mentioned it, yeah. Neither of them have mentioned it. But I'm sure that given it's next gen, that speeds are becoming more and more negligible, really, because once everything's reached a standard, that's kind of there's people who prefer to think of ridiculous speeds, but I think once everything's reached a standard, you can no longer call it a problem more than just an inconvenience.
I had 100 megabit internet, 100 Mbps at my student accommodation.
Yeah.
And it was glorious because the PlayStation 4 could stretch its legs nice and properly and give me decent performance. Hell, I used to This is a fun anecdote. Just before this lockdown came about, I went and did the last hurrah tour of Huddersfield. I went to go see a few of my mates, had a nice country walk, did all the old things I love doing while I'm there, because it's my final year and I may not know when I'm going to be back.
Yeah.
One of the things I did is I went round to my mate's house, and I'd been doing dissertation in the morning, so I had my MacBook in my bag. And I decided, oh man, I really wish we could play Jackbox Party, because it's really fun to play, and we can all play on our phones or whatever. I'm sure people have heard of Jackbox Party before. It's good fun. But I don't have my PS4 on me. I wish I brought my PS4 with me. And then I remembered I have PlayStation 4 Share on my MacBook. So I plugged my MacBook in, I had it signed up to the Wi-Fi at their house. The PlayStation 4 was on the Wi-Fi back at Stords at my student accommodation.
Yeah.
And we played Jackbox Party on our phones through my MacBook, through my PS4. And that was one of those really cool future moments where you're just like, oh man, we're actually in the future. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Because that's just insane. I'm literally about 20, 30 miles away from my console and I can still play the games.
Yeah.
That's genius. Because I loved that when I used to go home for Christmas and summer and other things.
I remember
because it meant that my PlayStation 4 could stay where it was.
Yeah.
And I could just come home with something light, like a laptop. Wouldn't need to grab a bulky whatever. Wouldn't need to bring a screen or anything. And I could still play PS4 games. I want that to continue with the PlayStation 5. I still want that play anywhere ability.
Yeah.
Because they even added it to the Vita. It gave the Vita functionality. Yeah. Because I used to play all sorts on my Vita.
Yeah.
Just from here. Just from home in Scarborough. Miles and miles and miles away from Huddersfield where my PS4 is.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Genius. Please, Sony, be kind to us. Continue to give us this awesome service for free. Because it's awesome.
Any final arguments regarding preference?
I think that I need to see more of these consoles before I make a definitive decision.
I think
as much as I'm what people would call a PlayStation fanboy, which I am because I love the IPs and I love the consoles.
Yeah.
It's a case of if they're both at the same price, and one is significantly more powerful, and they get the menus right, and it isn't a pain in the neck to use day to day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because my PC is getting older and less good at playing video games. And so, as much as I used to say, why would I buy an Xbox? I'll just play everything on PC. I may not be able to play everything on PC for that much longer.
Yeah.
If, say, the next the next Forza Horizon game is crazy, ridiculous graphics and looks beautiful, but I can't play it because my PC's too old.
Yeah. So essentially, what we're saying is that all of the figures that we just read out are pointless, and we just need to see how they perform in real life scenarios to make a decision.
Yes, because for God's sake, numbers are numbers.
So why did you listen to this podcast? So basically, we're telling you that this podcast was allegedly pointless. But at least you know the facts and figures.
Yes.
Which is a good starting point.
There's more info out there, and we will keep an eye on things.
Yes.
To see where they progress, and there might be another one of these soon. Maybe even a video dedicated to me opening my brand new PlayStation 5 if they decide to go that route.
Yes. Well, we will see. Well, I hope
let's wear masks and stay inside.
Yes, everyone stay inside, save lives, etc. Take it seriously, and hopefully we won't be doing the next one of these from lockdown, though we probably will because it's something we can do.
Yeah. These are dead easy to record. We don't have to set up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
We've both got decent enough internet that we can do this now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, everyone stay safe, and we will see you in the next thing. Bye.
Maybe we should record some new stuff.
Possibly.
Anyway, goodbye.
Bye.